Okay, so today we are working on lesson 6.1. Our objective is to graph and solve systems of linear equations. A system of linear equations consists of two or more linear equations with the same variables. That means if I have an equation y equals 2x plus 3 and y equals 1/2 x minus 5, those can be a system of linear equations. They both have the variables of y and x. A solution to a system of linear equations is an ordered pair or a coordinate that satisfies all of the equations in the system. So whatever ordered pair we find has to work for both equations. Has to be able to be plugged into x and y and work for this equation, and x and y over here and work for this equation. So let's go ahead and get started with example 1. It says use the graph to solve the equation. So they already did the hard work for you. They took the equation, they solved for y, and then they graphed it. They want you to now solve the system. The solution to the system of equations is where these lines intersect, where they overlap, where they equal each other. So it's going to be this point right here. And if we look at that point where they intersect is at the coordinate 2, 0. Now, they say they want us to check our solution algebraically. In order to check our solution algebraically, we need to make sure our point works for both equations. So we take each letter, x and y, and plug it into each equation. So let's start with the first one. 2x plus y equals 4. I plug in 2 for x and 0 for y. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 0 equals 4, and 4 equals 4. So we are good for that one. This point works for this equation. Then we move on to the next equation, which is 3x minus 5y equals 6, where we plug in 2 and 0 again. Three times 2 is 6. 6 minus 0, and 6 equals 6. So this solution, this coordinate, will satisfy both of these equations, and it is where these two lines intersect. Go ahead and flip your page to example 2. This is the last example we are going to go through on this video. This one says, solve the linear system. When we are solving these systems by graphing, the first thing we're going to need to do is graph each equation. But we all know that in order to graph these equations, we need to first solve for y. So let's do that with each of the equations now, starting with x minus 3y equals 2. I need to subtract x, and I get negative 3y equals negative x plus 2. Then I need to divide everything by negative 3 to isolate y. And I get y equals positive 1/3 x minus 2/3. Then for the other equation, I have negative 5x plus y equals 4. All I need to do is add 5x to the other side, so that I get y equals 5x plus 4. So now that we have each of these equations, we need to graph them. Let's start with the easier one, which is y equals 5x plus 4. So we go to 4 for our y-intercept, and we go our slope of 5 over 1, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 1, or down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and back 1. Then we connect that line with a straight edge. Then when we graph the other line, looks like we have a fraction for our y-intercept, and that's okay. It's negative 2/3, so it's going to be about right here. Then we need to go up 1 and over 3. So we go up 1 and over 1, 2, 3. Up 1 and over 1, 2, 3. Or we can go down 1 and back 1, 2, 3. We then connect these two lines, these points, with a straight edge. Once we graph each of the lines, our step 2 is to estimate the point of intersection. The point of intersection for this one looks like it is -1, -1. So where do those two lines intersect? They intersect right here. That is where they equal each other. Then we move on to step 3, which is to check to make sure that we got the correct answer. We check again by plugging this point into each equation. So let's start with the first one. X minus 3y equals 2. We plug in -1 minus 3 times -1 equals 2, where we get -1, negative times a negative is a positive, and -1 plus 3 is indeed 2. 2 equals 2. This solution works for this equation. Now moving on to the second equation, we have -5x plus y equals 4. We need to plug in -1 and -1. Negative times a negative is a positive, plus -1, and we get 5 minus 1, which is 4, equals 4. So to go ahead and quick review what we went through in this video, when you are trying to find the solution to a system of equations, you have the opportunity to graph each equation and identify where they intersect at. Once you identify that intersection where those two lines equal each other, then you can go through and check to make sure that that point works.